Hello, I'm Yoko, and welcome to year 23 of GalaxyClan. I am so sorry for the massive delay on this video. If you missed my community post, I had to move suddenly, and then my computer basically exploded again. I have a new computer now. That being said, this year is going to be rough around the edges. I'm sorry. A lot of speed paints were lost, and I did salvage art, but there's going to be a lot of still images in the lineup area based on how polls went. There's basically only like 7 cats that have a speed paint in this video, but I hope you still enjoy the video. We're basically going to try to get this year out so I can work on year 24 since this year is apparently cursed. And I'll go more into detail at the end, but I played the next year already and I have my notes. But I did lose all my clans again. We're not moving and everything will be rebuilt, so no fear, GalaxyClan and our neighbors will survive. But into the video for real for now. We have an animatic, and I will say there is a lot of setup involving a lot of cats that you guys just aren't going to have the full context for until whenever we get to them in the lineup. But as of now, potential blood warning, and let's hop into the middle of the chaos. Ospreyclaw was in a fight with Flamebear. The fight stopped for a second when Hopefern came in shouting what was wrong with Flamebear for attacking his niece, stepping in front of Ospreyclaw despite her body shaking. Hopefern glared, asking if he forgot that they both helped carry Ospreyclaw and her siblings when they were just kits on the journey. Flamebear responded coldly that Hopefern was just as bad, reminding her that Lightning Flight was his sister and she had killed Ospreyclaw's mother. Snipcloud cut in saying Flamebear had no right to comment on love for his family, considering how many he ended up causing the death of. Hopefern stood her ground and said that she knows her crime and she knows Ospreyclaw hates her, but the difference between her and Flamebear is that she's not fooling herself to think she's in the right. All of a sudden, Frostlycan was running extremely panicked with Hollowstar in the chase. The sight and sense of all the cats stopped him for a moment. Hollowstar coldly asked if this was just a get-together of killers and traitors. But Snipcloud commented that Hollowstar fits right in then, saying that he's fallen far from the last time he's seen him. Hollowstar was muttering under his breath, but the cats couldn't make out what he was saying. He suddenly lunged for Flamebear, who pulled a very surprised Hopefern in front of him. Hollowstar's deadly strike hitting her instead. Snipcloud shouted and ran to his fading sister as Flamebear tried to run and Hollowstar didn't hesitate to chase him. Hollowstar growled as Flamebear's scent disappeared and was surprised at Berrydew calling his name. Wrennoise and a confused wasp mimic was there as well. Berrydew said that he looked like a wild animal and said that he used to miss him, but the more he grew, the more stories he heard, and the less proud he was to have been his son. He tried to look for Hollowstar in the crystals and never saw him, and deep down he knew he was not in StarClan. Wrennoise whispered to Wasp Mimic that she's scared and begged him not to repeat history and go down this path because this is where it leads if you never stop killing. Hollowstar tried to go towards his kin, but he felt the ground collapse underneath him. Suddenly there was fire and he could smell silk fur, Brightstar, and blood before it shifted to Shine and her kits. And then he was falling with Springhaze's scent, landing in water with Flamebear with him. Frecklespot and Hopefern flashed by quickly, and then things calmed down and he tried to catch his breath before recognizing sense. His loved ones were on the other side of the border, with Hilfaz being the one to speak first, simply asking why must he keep killing. Hollowstar's expression drained from his face and he was left emotionless as he just said, "Everyone down here needs to die." The statement unsettled the cats and Emberfeather shook his head, saying that he will face that fate one day as well, all of the cats leaving Hollowstar standing at the border. Back with Flamebear, he had ended up facing Swansong, who shook with emotion as he just asked why. Why did Flamebear have to destroy his family, his mother, his father, and so many others? The kits he manipulated that never fully recovered and died too soon. Swansong had tears in his eyes as he yelled that Flamebear almost ruined him too. He poisoned him with anger, leading him to doing something horrible, and for some reason he's alive when others aren't. Swansong glared as he said that he never wants to end up like him, and he's doing his best to live for the protection of others. Swansong said he's made mistakes and he's going to keep making mistakes, but he'd rather die for someone than ever kill again. Flamebear then felt his reality warp and he was near the border with his victims looking back at him. They said nothing, but he couldn't take the different emotions and the stares of anger, to sadness, to fear, and he ran farther back into the forest to avoid their gaze. Ospreyclaw's eyes widened as she took in the sight in front of her. Rainbow Flare looked deep in focus as their eyes glowed and scenes of dreams swirled around them. Catching sight of one of them, she saw Frostlycan talking to his 2 ex-mates. Cavernbound said that while he didn't want to take him back as a mate, he really believed he shouldn't be rotting in the dark forest. Frostlycan's ex-Moss-Clan mate, Jaffa, agreed and reached her paw out asking him to join them in StarClan. Frostlycan cried as he took them up on the offer. Ospreyclaw whispered what was happening as she looked at scenes. Stonestar sat calmly and said, "She made mistakes, but most of the time all she wanted to do was help from what she's heard. There are those that miss her and she's going to end up dying here if she stays." Ospreyclaw turned at the scent of her family and bristled, saying, "They're too deep in the dark forest and it's dangerous here." Springhaze cutting in to think about herself for once and that they're fine. Orange Sun put a paw on Ospreyclaw's shoulder and said, "She forgives her. They were young." Lightning Flight walked up and asked if she would join, begging her to rest. Ospreyclaw was sad as she said she needed to stay to keep others out. Springhaze sounded tired as he said, "Of course." He said if she stays here, he wants her to run away at any sight of danger. No more fighting. Fuzzy Flake said if she wants to stay here, she can keep guiding living cats out like she did with him. Orange Sun sadly adding to visit the border to see them at least. Ospreyclaw looked at her mom, apologizing, but saying that she's made up her mind. And finally with Snipcloud, he had been having a deep conversation with his living kids and mate. Despite some tensions with his kids, he fully explained Butterfly Paw's cult to Frecklestar and urged her to spread the word of the true StarClan to her clan. At this point, he froze at the sight of his mother and most of his dead kids joining the dream. Fernheart walked up once again and asked him to join StarClan. Snipcloud started to say no, explaining someone needed to take care of Butterfly Paw and help the Viper Clan cats. But then, 2 unknown apprentices showed up. One introduced himself as Gentlepaw, the J-Clan StarClan guide, and one introduced themselves as Yellowpaw, the Moss Clan guide. Frogdapple also appeared, who Snipcloud recognized by name. They said Butterfly Paw was Viper Clan's Dark Forest guide, but Snipcloud could still help cats from StarClan, explaining he's basically already doing the job of a guide, but if he joins, he will have the power to influence cats appearing in StarClan rather than the Dark Forest. Snipcloud looked out over his family. He asked if a cat who had killed in the past, someone who left his original clan, someone who wasn't a good father, and someone who failed to save his sister from being killed could be something so special. Gentlepaw shrugged. Viper Clan's always been a weird kind of bunch, he said. Yellowpaw cut in, saying that he made a home in Viper Clan, and he has the drive to help his clan. Snipcloud hesitantly accepted and let the clan guides invite him to StarClan, feeling a new energy surge within him. So, heading into StarClan, Frostlycan is here now, and he didn't have a proper conversation with Snipcloud before coming here, but Snipcloud isn't mad at him and can recognize that he was being manipulated and forced into attacking him that day. He was sent into Ghostnose's dream, who had gotten in contact with his exes, and as stated, he didn't become mates with Cavernbounce again, but I'm gonna leave it up in the air now if he may get back with his Moss Clan girlfriend Jaffa. But for now, he can finally stop running for his life. Also gaining access to StarClan is Snipcloud, who I'm saying is the Viper Clan StarClan guide now. Though I'm probably not specifically editing him to be the guide because I do still want Butterfly Paw to exist, but we'll see. Sadly, Hopefern had been killed, but Snipcloud is going to do his best to guide those in Viper Clan that he believes deserve StarClan here. Most of his children are all gone by now, and sadly not all of them are in StarClan. He knows that if he goes face to face with Butterfly Paw and her group, he will die. For now, he's hoping his daughter Frecklestar can help shape Viper Clan towards the better. But yeah, speaking of Snipcloud's family, sadly Midnight Lilac died at 77 moons old, alongside his mate Oriole Chirp, who died at 78 moons old, and sadly their son Sleepy Fruit, who died at 18 moons old. All 3 of these cats died very early in the year, and it was technically a mass extinction event with badgers again. But since there was only 3 deaths and they were all family, I'm saying they ran into a group of badgers on patrol instead of them just attacking camp. Before these 3 died, Midnight Lilac was giving advice from Swan Song, which I'm interpreting was they were discussing and prepping for what was planned. We'll get into it more later, but the living cats that were specifically in GalaxyClan were aware that they were going to face the Dark Forest cats that they did. And Midnight Lilac was conflicted about his dad, considering Snipcloud had left him to be exiled by Serpent Star. But he can recognize that he was doing his best now to be a better cat, even if he doesn't exactly want to go do father-son bonding time. Oh, Midnight Lilac also heard his tale from Falling Rocks. And as for Sleepy Fruit, he was training with Stone Star and he was getting advice from Ice Dash because he actually had a crush on Diva Pond, sadly. And Oriole Chirp was mostly chill, but he had a nightmare about a rushing river right before his death, which I believe was his clairvoyant side activating. We'll get into that in a second. But yeah, I feel so bad for Bubbling Mark and the girls, but again, we'll get to them later. Moving on to sadly Zach, who died at 82 moons old, and this is where I say, our camp flooded and 4 cats died. It had been trying to set a good example for younger cats this year, and was mostly just being a pretty good warrior. It wasn't sassy or antagonistic to J-Clan, and it seemed to just be chilling. Zach also had a pretty high positive relationship with Wishkeeper, and it definitely knew that Brokenstream was crushing, probably playfully teasing its kit. But yeah, not much to say, but I'm so sad to lose Zach. On to the other flood victims. One unfortunately being Todd, who died at 72 moons old, who was wondering if Cragskill had gotten any prophecies, so I checked StarClan, and Oopsie Daisy, Hillfuzz, and Lizard Snap all wanted to speak to a medicine cat, which was extremely concerning. Notably, Todd was wondering how a cat was doing the moon before the flood, and that cat also ended up drowning. So I wonder if StarClan had given a vague omen and Todd knew something bad was coming, but didn't know exactly what, and then possibly drowned when she had tried to go after the cat that she had been wondering about the moon before, knowing that they needed help as soon as she saw the water. Because that cat was Berrydew, who died at 46 moons old, and I'm so sad. I loved him. He faced his dad at least, and I like to think that he gave him some kind of closure. He found Badger Scent after Oriole Chirp, Midnight Lilac, and Sleepy Fruit's deaths, and ordered his patrol to wait so they could warn Viper Clan. On another patrol, he was ambushed by rogues, and he took the lead in confronting them, telling them of unclaimed land that they could find prey in when they admitted to be struggling for food, somehow avoiding a fight, which was very mature of him and very interesting considering rogues kidnapped him as a kid. He was doing so good this year, I'm so mad. He also rejected Chris Drizzle again earlier in the year, so there's that. But yeah, he sadly drowned, and I just think no one was able to get to him in time. But on to our last drowning victim. Our deputy Ghost Snow died at 93 moons old, and he was crucial in helping set up what happened to the StarClan cats during the animatic, using his connection to StarClan to help talk to and collect most of the cats that showed up, or at least getting them to then gather more of them. He also was giving advice to his younger brother, who was panicking a bit over becoming a dad. Stone Star really respected him, and I think she was preparing to retire because the moon before he died, she had been letting him call the shots lately, and was proud of his initiative. And I did roll if she wanted to retire there, but she didn't. So the next moon, the camp flooded, and he was most likely trying to help others when he drowned. But sadly, there is one more death this year, and they are a new face in clan. I am so sad to introduce the 4-moon-old Whistle Kit, who is a quick-witted know-it-all. She was a kit of Cragskill and Peatmane, and I loved her. She was a menace, but in a cute way. She would run around camp like a whirlwind and try to get in trouble. Rainbow Flare was trying to give her advice, but she rolled her eyes and said that she memorized the warrior code ages ago. And this is when she was 2 moons old. And I'm so mad because Whistлекit was found dead in the snow after presumably she snuck out of camp. And this family is so cursed. Can you guys please stay out of the snow? I'm so sad about this. Whistлекit's full name would have been Whistle Honey, and she has at least a brother who is still alive. But with that said, that is everyone in StarClan this year. On to our living cats. And we're actually going to start with the 63-moon-old Pebblejoy because she's not in clan, and it's easier to mention this here rather than later. She actually immediately left to live with her secret kitty pet mate named 4 after knowing he wasn't going to join the clan. And that's 4 with a TH, not the number. I just really can't say TH well. So yeah, she's a house cat now, and I did roll and she did become fixed. 4 had statuses about not wanting to go to the cutter, so I rolled him, and his owners ended up fixing her but not him because they're oh so responsible, as you can tell. She was wondering how the clan's kits were doing though. But yeah, just wanted to mention that Pebblejoy is currently a house cat in the beginning, so I didn't have to dance around it later. But on to the cats in the clan. Stone Star is still here at 134 moons old, and she has a new mate because the 117-moon-old Chamois asked her and she said yes. First off, Stone Star wanted to get to deal with the Dark Forest situation in some way, so she reached out everywhere she could asking if cats would help. Her original plan was to get Rainbow Flare to go to Wrennoise's dream to bring her out and let Stone Star investigate the Dark Forest. But with Rainbow Flare's help, they made the plan that ended up happening instead. This was a plan really built on the trust of her clanmates, and she's very happy with the results, all things considered. It could have gone a lot worse. Now, as for Chamois, she was sunbathing with Stone Star in between training and has been telling the apprentices tall tales. And she actually has another apprentice. After the flood, she spent a night stressing over disasters, and she's concerned with Stonestar, knowing how hard losing her son was, and she's doing her best to support her new mate. Also, on the last moon of the year, Stonestar was struck by lightning and lost a life, which, what is with lightning killing leaders recently? Thunderstar had the same thing happen last year. But as for Stonestar's new deputy, I think she was in shock and picked a cat that recently helped her a lot, but I believe she's a little concerned with how they do as leader, because the now 52-moon-old Rainbow Flare is deputy, and they also changed from troublesome to childish, and I don't know if that's better or worse for potential leader. When Stonestar asked if they could use their powers to help walk in Wrennoise's dreams, Rainbow Flare revealed that they could probably do much more. They had gone from Dream Walker to Dream Shaper, and while it took a lot of focus and Rainbow Flare ended up exhausted, using gathered information from everyone, they were able to create a dreamscape for every Dark Forest member, and even manipulate it in the case of Holostar, showing his mistakes right in front of him to try to drill the message that his actions are bad. Rainbow Flare was also given a new apprentice this year, and he has been really struggling, and they comforted him. Rainbow Flare was surprised at being made deputy, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't think they wanted to be deputy. Rainbow Flare feels like someone that mostly just likes to go with the flow, but has a good sense of justice and duty for the clan. They'll do what they know is something only they can do when it comes to dream shaping, but I don't know how Rainbow Flare is going to handle the pressure of deputyship and potential leadership. They were unsure about what the rest of the clan thought of them as deputy, but they did fight off rogues that ambushed them in their patrol, and then their apprentice had a deadly scare that we'll get to later. Rainbow Flare seems pretty stressed out, honestly, but one thing they've seen to have moved on from, though, is the Chris Drizzle drama. Rainbow Flare's crush is almost completely gone, and they seem to be focused on other things instead. And now onto our medicine cat den, where there is only the 48-moon-old Kragscale, who came out as a trans guy this year after his kits were born. After he announced kits, he was hoping his litter would be small, and then asked Stargazer for advice. When he did have his kits, he didn't feel ready and seemed pretty upset during the early moons of his kits' lives. Not really interacting much, but Pete Main made up for it. He seemed to connect more after coming out as trans, so I'm not sure if he was dealing with dysphoria feelings or maybe postpartum depression. He's a very good kit sitter, so I'm leaning towards he was dealing with some mental stuff, rather than he just didn't like his kits. He was very upset at Whistlekitt's death, possibly because he wasn't the most active parent when she was still here. And Pete Main is currently in the nursery as a den dad with their remaining son because Kragscale is very busy being the only medicine cat. His dad Marsh has been trying to help out, but honestly has been a bit more of a headache than a help. But that being said, Marsh is also a trans guy, so I like to think that he helped him on his trans journey. But yeah, Kragscale is very stressed, and I don't know if he'd want another litter in the future, but we'll see what the game says. On to our mediators for now. Ice Dash is now 44 moons old, and she has had a busy year. She was also one of the cats that was reached out to for Dark Forest Plan due to her ghost sight, and she managed to get in contact with some cats, particularly the ones that she was family with. After that, she'd been shipping this year. She was trying to help Sleepy Fruit and his crush Diva Pond before he died, and then she also pulled her brother Wishkeeper aside to quietly ask about his crush on a clanmate, who she then helped him with. She was also giving parents advice, which we'll talk about when we get there, and seems to have continued giving Swan Song therapy, which I love to see. She also got an apprentice this year, so we have a new mediator. Meet the 9-moon-old charismatic Minnopaw, who is constantly climbing. And he's the son of Gecko and Jackdaw Slash, who was an attention-seeking kit. And as a kit, he was apparently in Berry 2's way multiple times. He said hello to Chris Drizzle like 10 times in a row until he said hi back. And at his apprentice ceremony, he was very excited to train as a mediator. And he has such lively energy. I love him. Reminds me so much of Ice Paw when she was just an apprentice. The mediator den is filled with goofballs, and I love this. Also, I feel like he was named Minnow Kit after Trout Kit, with Stone Star possibly pointing out that they had the same kind of tail, and then Gecko Dart suggesting another fish name. Minnopaw has siblings, but we'll see them later in the apprentice den, but for now, on to our warriors. Starting with the 102-moon-old Marsh, he had been lightening the mood with shenanigans, and stepped on a thorn when trying to help Kragscale find Rosemary. He had a horrible training session with Adderstripe and realized GalaxyClan needs to work on cooperation, but in his defense, Adderstripe just doesn't like him. He also just flacked a pebble at a badger's head when checking if it was in its den. Not the safest. and he was bored when looking for trouble to get into, and I don't think he quite likes all the responsibilities of being in a clan. He was grumbling when carrying out tasks for Cragscale, but he is trying to help his son out where he can, even if he doesn't like doing it. Also, he was listening to stories about Garlic of all cats, so that's kind of interesting. Moving on to Bubbling Mark, she is now 91 moons old, and she is struggling. I feel so bad. She got into a fight with a rogue, and while she chased it away, she needed to be rushed to the medicine cat den. And then she saved an elder from being thrown into a lake with the help of all of her kids, and then both of her mates and her son died all at once. And she's shut down. She's been wondering if she's good enough and had constant statuses about how her old clanmates were doing, and I think she might want to go back and live with her sister, but she's very conflicted since she has her 2 daughters here. I plan on making her lost in MossClan now, when we go to play the next year, to see if she chooses to go back home. She was getting advice from Stargazer, and I swear this man is an honorary mediator at this point. But yeah, she's not doing well, and I feel really bad for her. Moving on to Rooster Tail, who is 75 moons old, and Hop, who is 69 moons old. They ended up having 2 kits, and Rooster Tail was thinking about Branch Deer, which I thought was sweet. He possibly wanted to try to be like the clan dad. He also got an accessory from Adderstripe, of all cats, which is interesting because he doesn't really like her, for reasons. And I decided to make them into rooster feathers because it was dried herbs in-game and that was boring. He got an apprentice and was giving them a lesson on tracking. Specifically how to tell how long ago tracks were made and things like that, which was fun to see. He was also humming to himself a lot. As for Hop, he was telling the kids about his days as a loner. What did you get up to? I'm genuinely curious. He joined very young. He also took on the lion's share of leading out a dog when he was out with Rooster Tail and his apprentice, which I am very proud of, so happy to get a win for him. These 2 seem pretty happy right now, and that makes me happy. Moving on to the 66-moon-old Swan Song. As mentioned before the Dark Forest events, he was giving advice to Midnight Lilac, and after he was chatting with Cragscale about what it's like to be a medicine cat. Then he was nervously pacing around camp on a moon and missed a bird while on patrol with Stone Star, and that lined up pretty well with something that could be making him distracted, because he also was seen touching noses with a MossClan cat. And there's this cat in MossClan named Crowfreckle that became mates with someone and immediately adopted quote-unquote kids. There's been speculation that those 2 got together specifically so Crowfreckle can have someone to help raise these adopted kids. That being said, I'm here to confirm a theory that Crowfreckle of MossClan's kits are Swan Songs. So he has 3 kits in another clan right now who technically are apprentice age, but MossClan waits until cats are 8 moons old to become apprentices, and they're only 6 moons. But he has a daughter named Fawnpaw, and 2 sons named Sneezepaw and Weevilpaw. Not sure what the relationship status of him and Crowfreckle is, considering she has a mate in MossClan that is helping raise these kids. So we'll have to keep an eye on things and see how they go. Now, as for the 64-moon-old Jackdaw Slash and the 46-moon-old Gecko Dart, Jackdaw Slash immediately announced kids, and the 2 had a litter of 3 babies. Jackdaw Slash was wondering how Stone Star was doing and was giving Wishkeeper advice, though she was feeling unappreciated towards the end of her kids' days in the nursery, and I think she missed patrolling. When kits were announced, I think Gecko Dart was panicking. He was not really prepared. He was asking Ice Dash, Ghost Snow, and Chris Drizzle for some reason for advice, but he really seemed like such a happy dad when they came here, and he was really eager to meet them. He did panic slightly when one of his kits was found to have a disability that scared him mostly for her safety, but the medicine cats and the Mediator at the time helped them find ways to help her. And despite J-Clan tensions, a J-Clan cat, Running Wisp, had the same condition, and he seeked her out at a gathering, which she offered advice for her condition as well. Gecko Dart also later tripped and face-planted while training with Jackdaw Slash, and I find that funny. Pete Mane also gave him dried herbs in-game, but again, those are boring. I'm tired of dried herbs. So I looked at Life Gen accessories and I gave him a yellow primrose instead, because the color kind of reminded me of his wife's eyes. But moving on to a pair of mates I was not expecting, Chris Drizzle is now 56 moons old, and he accepted the now 40-moon-old Echo Whisper when she asked him to be her mate at the end of the year. And his status that moon was that he was rethinking his life choices. So I'm a bit concerned, and I don't think he actually wanted to say yes, but possibly felt bad rejecting her again, or maybe was panicking over potentially never getting a mate since Berry Dew rejected him again and then died. And Rainbow Flare had become distant and seemed to move on when ironically Chris Drizzle really likes Rainbow Flare now. Earlier in the year, he had tried to give Rainbow Flare some advice, but they were standoffish. He also wanted to get to know a new face in clan better, but that cat doesn't really like him much, so I think Chris Drizzle panic accepted Echo Whisper. They did fight rogues together this year, which was fun at least. Echo Whisper was having a tough time with her dad's and brother dying, and her mom isn't really doing the best, and she was kind of looking on as the camp buzzed around her when she became mates of Chris Drizzle. She seems happy, and I hope this goes well, because I just want these cats to not be sad. Not the best start to a relationship, but we'll see. Moving on to Adderstripe, who is 46 moons old, she's been stinky. She seemingly doesn't even try during a training session with Marsh, and while she did give Rooster tail feathers, I think she did that for a different reason than being kind, because she ended up getting one of their kits as an apprentice, and she is not a good mentor. Her apprentice has 2 scars from patrols, and we'll see that later. Her apprentice wasn't listening when she was explaining how to gather moss, so Adderstripe went and complained to her mom, Stone Star, which was on the same moon that Stone Star was struck by lightning. So can you just let your mom rest? She's going for a lot. She also doesn't like the sibling of her apprentice. Adderstripe stopped being a hater. Her apprentice invited a cat on their first patrol that Adderstripe initially wasn't impressed with, but she actually really gets along with this new guy, and they seem to be good friends, so at least there's that for a positive. But moving on to a new couple, 44-moon-old Wishkeeper is now mates with the 33-moon-old Brokenstream, and they also became mates on the very last moon of the year. With Ice Dash and Zach both having played Matchmaker, they probably would have taken less time, but I think Brokenstream took a couple moons to grieve his parent. But once they announced it, they had some less sympathetic cats trying to hack up a hairball, which I swear was probably Adderstripe. Going back in time, Wishkeeper was listening to stories about his brother Junkopaw, which was sweet, and Brokenstream actually lost an ear when following a Moss Clan scent to a cat in a tree that tried to warn him. And on Moss Clan's side, that lines up great because they helped an injured GalaxyClan cat home, specifically a cat named Rainmask. But they're both missing an ear now, and Wishkeeper helped him adjust. He also later stepped on a bee though, so he's been having kind of an unlucky year. As for Wishkeeper, he found an abandoned Free-Moon-old kit and brought him back to camp. At least that's what it says happened in-game, but that kit was the same color of Pebblejoy, and timeline-wise lined up perfectly to have been born the moon after she left camp. So in actuality, I think Pebblejoy gave him her kit to go live with the clan after finding out they would be given away to other tree legs. Wishkeeper also hopped the Viper Clan border and was greeted with hisses until he explained that he was warning of a badger, and Frecklestar thanked him and escorted him home. Please be careful crossing the border. He also is one of the few cats with a swimming trait, so I imagine he was helping a lot during the flood, with getting kits, elders, etc., anyone that needed help. He also is boasting about defeating an enemy warrior on patrol, so he's doing really good it seems. But yeah, I love these two. I hope they end up being a cute couple. Moving on to Wrennoise, who is now 40 moons old. She was scared when the plan was revealed for the Dark Forest, but hoped it could help. When faced with Holostar, she saw how her brother still moved to shield her when Wasp Mimic noticed she was scared, and it hurt her heart. She loves her brother, so she really wanted to get him to know that she's afraid of him ending up like their grandpa. And she later had a pleasant conversation with a J-Clan cat, so I think they reconnected a bit. She had been tough on herself lately and was trying to learn from Burnett Flicker's legacy, which, again, very random old cat. Who is talking about her? I mean, it fits. They both struggle with insecurities and brother issues, but still very interesting to see it pop up. Wrennoise is also silently screaming at Echo Whisker becoming mates with Chris Drizzle because she really likes her, but she's being a very supportive friend. Next up is a new face, the 34-moon-old Sneaky Cyndaquil, who is a good fighter and a lore keeper, and GalaxyClan finally has its first cat with vitiligo after 23 years, and I invited him by accident. I'm also being transparent by saying I edited him to be brown instead because he was a white-based cat before, and that is evil for our first cat that has vitiligo. Clan Gen is mean. But that being said, he was invited by Adderstripe's apprentice, and as earlier I mentioned, he's actually pretty close with Adderstripe. He doesn't like Chris Drizzle though, and he hasn't done much, but he did unleash his battle experience on chasing a small dog out where he darted and ripped out fur. We don't really know much about him, and I hope he's not bad because I love his look. But being friends of Adderstripe is giving a little bit of bad vibes, to be honest. On to Diva Pond, who is now 26 moons old. She was almost hit by a monster and then went missing for a couple days after Sleepy Fruit died. She did like him back, so his death seemed to have affected her. After coming back, she was giving Marsh advice and then telling Brokenstream and Wrennoise the story of her ancestors, which I am interested in. Tell me your secrets, Diva Pond. Am I going to eventually run into your family? Is that where you went when you disappeared? She was also offering any help she could to Cragscale, which was very sweet of her. But that's honestly about it for her. So moving on to the 26-moon-old Rowancaw. She was coming up with complicated riddles for fun, but then she became sad for losing a lot of her family, but Pete Main cheered her up a bit by just doing a backflip, which is so cool. What? She fought off rogues of Chris Drizzle and was watching clan dynamics with a knowing stare. She also has the same accessory of Oriole Chirp, which she actually got last year and I forgot to mention, but that is so sad now. Concerningly, Bubbling Mark actually has a decent amount of dislike for her, which I'm going to say is grief and misdirected emotions, and I'm going to try to fix that with Mediators. I don't think her mom hates her for, anything more than her complicated emotions. I really think it's just things going right now. Moving on to our new warriors, newly named Luckshine is 21 moons old, loyal, and a fish-like swimmer. Thank you for the name suggestions. Luckshine was named by the community. And here's an accessory guide for Clover's pronouns. Chloe did indeed find a 4-leaf clover, and I'm recording this audio after the new update came out, and I do know there is now Clover accessories that can go on a tail, but I made this before that. And in-game, Hop gave Chloe a maple leaf. And as for the she/her pronouns, I just picked a pretty pink rose. Going for a plant theme here. Chloe shadowed out a large dog out with Wishkeeper after Brokenstream had been hurt. Later, Chloe was asking Gecko Dart for advice passing an assessment. When Luckshine was named, Chloe was looking at the clan with adoration and named for Clover's spirit. Luckshine also has a swimming trait, so like with Wishkeeper, Chloe was also a great help during the flood, swimming to help cats. But moving on to Clover's brother, Blizzard Chime was also named via community poll, so thank you guys. And he's a confident, unusually strong fighter, and was named for his dignity. And he asked Rainbow Flare for help passing his assessment. On the moon that he was named, he was boasting about how much fresh kill he planned to bring back, which really reminds me of the confidence of his mentor Berrydew had. And Blizzard Chime really looked up to and respected him, and he's sad that he didn't survive the flood. On a better note, Blizzard Chime has already become a mentor himself, and he's doing a pretty good job, all things considered. While they did argue once, he took a deep breath and held his temper when explaining the technique again, which was very mature of him considering his age. Moving into the Apprentice den, starting with the Rooster Hop kits. Starting with the 10-moon-old thoughtful Bouncepaw, who never sits still and is interesting in clan history. She was a polite kit, and when she touched noses with Adderstripe, she was wondering if this was truly the right path for her. And then on her first patrol, she invited the abandoned Cyndaquil, but I swear Adderstripe is not taking care of her. She got frostbite after being stuck in a storm, and then she was scarred by a badger, which is terrifying considering 3 cats were killed this year because of badgers. I also think Adderstripe might just be taking her out the train, but then kind of ditching her because an Apprentice has been getting lost in other clan territories a couple times. But Bouncepaw is not having a good time right now. As for her brother Cypress Paw, he is ambitious and a picky nest builder, and he does not get along with his sister's mentor. He was a bossy kit and was scolded for sneaking out of camp. He also wanted to be leader so that every cat would have to listen to him. He was apprenticed to Blizzard Chime and caught a large rat on his first patrol. He did argue over technique, but apologized after it was explained he'll gain muscle better this way. He also could be the apprentice getting lost, but I'm really leaning towards Bouncepaw instead. But yeah, he's just like a little hop twin, and I think he's adorable. He's trying to look out for his sister right now because she's less outspoken than he is. And meet the 10-moon-old Stempaw, who is oddly observant and surprisingly quick to make peace. Like I said, this is Pebblejoy and Four's kit, who was brought to the clan at 3 moons old by Wishkeeper. He was a bullying kit who didn't really like being here and was hiding from other cats. He was apprenticed to Rainbow Flare, where he broke down saying that he felt like a failure, and while Rainbow Flare comforted him, he was still angsty. And I do not blame him, because he was then ambushed by rogues, fighting them off, and he wasn't scarred, but he was probably hurt, because later he was remembering how Todd healed him. Also, he became an apprentice, right before the camp flooded, so he's really not having a good time. He also caught a rat, but his mouth began to sour when he brought it back, and he became violently ill. Rainbow Flare rushed in to help, as well as making sure the sick rat was buried, but he didn't even react when Rainbow Flare later praised him for a good catch, and I do think he's just kind of shutting down, and I feel so bad. I'm sure Pebblejoy probably sent him there with the best intentions, thinking he would be okay, and he would fit in, and he'd be fine, but he's really not having a good time at all. But moving on to our last group of apprentices. Time to meet Minnowpaw's siblings, starting with Horizon Paw, who was also named via a community poll. She's 9 moons old and lonesome, a picky nest builder, and an avid play fighter. And she also has epilepsy and suffers from seizures, which was what Gecko Dart was seeking advice for. Unfortunately, the seizure-prone cat in GClan died this year, which is sad because I was kind of hoping for potential friendship in the future. She was a shy kit, but she was still pretending to be clan leader, which I love to see. She was apprenticed to Rooster and hoped that he would be cool and they'd do anything but moss or tick duty. And then she missed a fish on her first patrol, which her sister teased her about, and Paw gave her advice, which I read more as playful sibling banter. But it seems like Rooster as a mentor is someone that is keeping an eye on her, but letting her train like any other apprentice, which is something I think she appreciates. I love that Rooster seems to be doing better as a mentor this time around. Paw also thinks that Paw will make a fine warrior, and they seem to be friends, which is really cute. But moving on to her sister, here is the charismatic Paw, who is a careful listener. She was a fearless kit, and she was wishing to be more like Sleepy Fruit after he passed, which was sad. She was purring so hard that she was shaking when she was apprenticed to Shammy, and they had a pleasant conversation with ViperClan on their first day out. I imagine she was just really impressed and interested in their split tongues and was like, "That's so cool." She seems like the type of apprentice that would just run around and be really excited with everything. As mentioned, she teased her sister for missing a catch, but she seems playful. I doubt it was in bad fate. Her training's been pretty chill compared to everyone, and that's pretty much all there is to say, so moving into the Elder's Den. Stargazer is still here at 155 moons old, and he survived the flood, which I am happy to see. Glad someone was able to get him to safety. I mean, everyone seems to love him in this clan, and he's constantly giving advice and telling stories, even if some are rather tall tales. As mentioned earlier, he was giving cats like Cragscale and Bubbling Mark advice. But yeah, he's a mad lad, and both elders we have right now survived the flood, and they were also cats that were saved from being thrown into the lake. So with that said, meet Eepy Steep, who I love the name of. She's 148 moons old, rebellious, and an incredible runner and a good fighter. Though some of those skills might have been from when she was younger. This is who Bubbling Mark saved with all of her children helping, meaning Sleepy Fruit, Echo Whisper, and Rowancaw at the time. Gotta love family bonding where you save an old lady. And she has a bit of an attitude, to be honest, after the flood. She has a list of complaints for Stone Star, but she was a bit busy at the time. Eepy Steep seems to lead towards the cranky elder side of things, and she was also forgetting who Midnight Lilac was, and I don't know if I count that as she knew him for like 1 moon, or if she has any dementia-related things going on, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't hold her wanting to complain after a flood against her. I mean, she was told this was a safe place, and then she almost drowned like twice. But yeah, we have 2 elders right now, and let's look at our last cats in clan inside the nursery. Where 52-moon-old Pete Main is, with his and Cragscale's son, the 5-moon-old bossy Red Kit, who's a picky nest builder and oddly observant, and he's about to become an apprentice next moon. Starting with Red Kit, he was a bit annoyed no one was listening to him when he used to play with Whistle Kit a lot. Luckily, the flood didn't get him, but after Whistle Kit died, he had the status that he was frightened after hearing a scary story, which I took as he didn't accept her death as real at first, and was just trying to convince himself it was a scary story. He feels kind of lonely now, and as for Pete Main, he had been purring with friends and was excited at the announcement of his kits, but he quickly noticed Cragscale wasn't doing well, which he wasn't mad at his mate for, and simply stepped in to help more with the kits, in support. He knows Cragscale was going through things and wasn't just being cruel to the kits, and he's happy that Cragscale seems to be doing better, all things considered. He knows his mate is very stressed right now, being the only medicine cat. Also, as mentioned, he cheered up Rowancaw by doing a backflip, so that is pretty cool. But yeah, Pete Main is a sweetheart, and I love him. He's very sad over the death of his daughter, but he wants to stay positive in order to help Red Kit and Cragscale, who he believes needs some positivity in their lives. And moving over to check on Wasp Mimic, he is 40 moons old now, and still the deputy of GClan. He really seems to be running things right now, and GClan went to war with Moss Clan and did pretty good, but they also had a fire happen, and that killed cats, so he's been pretty busy. He's been thinking about his old clanmates, and I think seeing Holostar might have affected him a bit. He does, however, currently have a crush on a cat named Draco, who secretly murdered a medicine cat. Wasp Mimic doesn't know that, though. And he did yell at the GalaxyClan member who lost their apprentice, which is really interesting because Wasp Mimic likes kits, and also that was probably Adderstripe, and he used to have a crush on her when he was living in GalaxyClan. So very interesting to see. But yeah, onto the other clan section. Leader-wise, Stone Star is still here and down to 4 lives. Thunderstar is doing relatively well, best he can with all the casualties in the war that he had with GClan. He officially has an Elder Sprite, and he also has a mate finally, Spirejoy. In J-Clan, we have Missile Star, and I discovered in the code that last year, she was actually challenged by another cat that I missed, and that cat died this year from the wounds that Missile Star made another cat give her. So that's 2 cats that have challenged her as leader. Not good. Also, her son was murdered, but she didn't seem to care that much, and she didn't really like him, so that's sad. In Viper Clan, they had a much calmer year compared to the other clans. Frecklestar is doing her best and been having fun with her wife, but I will say she is now the last living kid of Snipcloud, which is sad. I do think she was trying to spread the word of the true StarClan, as Snipcloud told her. Deputy-wise, Rainbow Flare is new, and I hope they do well. Icy Pelt seems to be doing her best, but also seems really overwhelmed. She's probably worried about her sister Bubbling Mark as well. We already went over Wasp Mimic for J-Clan, so moving on to Viper Clan, where Spruce Shadow is still deputy and trying to do her best to support her mate. She also had a broken bone and been out of commission for a while, though. Honestly, most of our deputies aren't doing the best. I think Wasp Mimic is probably the best out of the bunch somehow. Medicine Cat-wise, it's just Kragskull and GalaxyClan after the death of Todd. In Moss Clan, Tin Man was killed by a J-Clan attack that went after the herbs. Minnie and Goose Lotus seem to have been getting signs and potential prophecies. And Goose Lotus tried to get Minnie to run away with them. They also found many orphan kids this year, and there's a new apprentice named Tin Paw, who is named after Tin Man, so that's fun. He's cold and a bit concerning. He's wondering if StarClan uses green cough to weed out the weaker members of the clan, on the same moon that a kit died of sickness. In J-Clan, Kink Daisy was murdered as mentioned. We found a new medicine cat named Crumpet, who is insecure but very pretty. El Whisker is still here, and he's been doing his best. And Skip Fluff has a new mate, but it's a little concerning because Skip Fluff asked them when they had a heat stroke, and then they immediately adopted a kit together, and then Skip Fluff accidentally got poisoned from death berries, so she's a mess, I swear. Viper Clan-wise, Rook Whisker retired. Charismatic Swishskitter got her full name, but was caught breaking the warrior code, which I wonder what she did. She also got rejected by someone, but she has an apprentice named Swamp Paw, who was interested in all of the myths and stories. He got laurels as congratulation, and concerningly, Gardenia Fluff was watching with a jealous glint. Gardenia Fluff, be nice to the baby. Mediator-wise, we have Ice Dash and now Minnopaw in GalaxyClan, and the page is looking quite empty because the Moss Clan Mediator Tetrastripe died of green cough, and he never got an apprentice. So Moss Clan has no Mediator as of now, and J-Clan still doesn't believe in therapy. So in Viper Clan, we still have Gorsglare, who has been trying to solve problems by starting them, specifically regarding Splinter Jumble since she's been so violent, trying to get her in trouble, I believe, and Berry Chase, who has been doing well and helped settle disputes with other clans. But yeah, that is finally year 23. Again, thank you for the patience with this year. I did actually cut the animatic a bit shorter than I would have liked to explore the StarClan cats. That section was just getting really long. I would have liked to explore the StarClan cats facing cats like Holostar and Flamebear more. But yeah, we went from 6 GalaxyClan related cats in the Dark Forest to only 3, with Hopefern dying and Snipcloud and Frostlycan joining StarClan. Hopefully next year can be less dramatic with the Dark Forest now. Rainbow Flare is so cool, but I really don't think they wanted the position they were given, so I hope they do well. We have so many mates right now, and while we did have a lot of kits this year, we didn't quite reach a boom, which I count as 10 or more kits. But with the amount of mates we have, I fear for the future. Now, as for what I mentioned in the beginning, I lost my clans again. People on the Discord are helping me with recoding the side clans, so we'll be able to save them. We streamed them this time, so we have all the information. I played the entirety of year 24, and I have my notes. I do not remember exactly what some of the new cats looked like, so I might do some creative liberties. But basically, I have enough information to work on year 24 while we get the side clans coded so we can stream them. Not quite sure if we'll get the next year in January, but we'll see. I'm gonna aim for it. And self-promo time, bear with me. I did make Halloween-themed designs on my Redbubble link below, and I advertised them on my community post. Ignore that it's December. You can get them as stickers, shirts, etc., and some designs work better with transparent stickers options. Thank you for everyone that bought some. I really appreciate it, especially with the no uploading time. It really helped me. But yeah, I moved and things are calming down now after all the curse that was this year. I swear I feel like Odysseus at the end of the song Charybdis, if I'm saying that right, where he's just like, home, I've reached it, I finally see it, and then just, what? No! I don't want to sing it because copyright, but that, you know. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and listening to my rambling. I'd appreciate if you could like, subscribe if you haven't, and check out my links below. I know this year was rough around the edges, but I'm really hoping next year will be better. With all that said, I will see you next time. Peace!